Hello and welcome to the Next Step Support webinar series. In this episode, we're here to talk about the online application process, how it's changed, obviously, during the last few very unique months, and what employers are looking for. We've got four panelists here with us today, and we're delighted that they've taken the time to join us. So I'd like to welcome Isabella Luba from Merkle, Siobhan Scanlon from Musgrave, Gabrielle Sewell from Marsh & McLennan, and Catherine Brewster from FDM Group. We've got a lot to get through. We've got a very popular session here today, which is great to see. I'd like to thank you all out there for taking the time to come and join us. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions. You can fire the questions through the live storm panel. We will get to as many as we can, but obviously, due to the volume of questions, there may be some that are, duplicates, whatever else. We will get to as many as we can. So we've a lot to cover. So just so you know who you're talking to here and who you're listening to. We're just going to do a little quick roundup of the panel and what their job roles are and what their organisations are involved doing. So Isabella, can you just a quick overview there of Merkle?
Sure. Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm head of early careers at Merkle. Merkle is a digital marketing company, so we do all online advertising. So when you buy a pair of shoes on ASOS and then you keep getting advertised like, oh, do you want them in blue now? They're in the sale. Reminder to buy. That's what we do. Unfortunately, that is not just fate, as I thought for many years it was. So that is a flavour of what we do at digital marketing at Merkle.
That's great. Siobhan?
Yeah, hi, thank you. My name is Siobhan Scanlon. I am Early Careers Manager with Musgrave. For those of you who aren't familiar with the name Musgrave, you may be familiar with our brands, SuperValu, Centra, Daybreak, Frank and Honest, Donnybrook Fair. So we are Ireland's leading retail and wholesale business, and we feed 1 in 3 people in Ireland, of which we're very proud.
Great. Catherine?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Catherine Brewster from FDM Group. My role is UK University Partnerships Manager, so I'm based within our graduate recruitment team. My background's all within that space. FDM Group, we are the market leaders within recruit, train and deployment of business and technical consultants. So mainly focused within our graduate programme, where we hire all throughout the year. We also have a Returners to Work programme and an ex-forces programme as well.
Great stuff, Catherine. Thank you very much. And Gabrielle, if you could, quick overview.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Sewell. I work for Marsh & McLennan Companies, and I'm an early careers recruiter there. So we hire for apprentices, graduates, placements and interns. So Marsh & McLennan is a professional services firm, and it's split up into 4 businesses, and I recruit for 3 of them. So Marsh, which is insurance broking and risk management, Mercer, which is health, wealth and careers consulting, and for Guy Carpenter, which is our reinsurance business.
I see. Thank you very much to you all. Listen, let's just try and set the picture for where we are now in terms of graduate recruitment and how the summer and the early autumn are looking. Gabrielle, since I went to you last, I'll go to you first this time. That's okay. What's your own? How's your own, processes looking coming up to the next recruitment cycle? What's changed since the onset of the pandemic, I suppose, and what have you had to, what adjustments have you had to make to what would be your normal processes?
Yeah, of course. So we're fairly fortunate to have hired our graduates already before the pandemic started. So we hadn't had to change our recruitment process too much yet, but we have prepared for the next season. So our recruitment process before would have been an online application process, so CV, online application, and then it would have been a HireVue on-demand video interview. So it's all online already for quite a lot of the process. We also do gamification tests, which are a way of assessing cognitive function, and it'll also be online. So the final one is the assessment centre, and that is the one that we do in person. We've now had to tweak to do online for our next intake, but we're hoping by then we'll be able to do it in person. That's the only bit that's changed. So through assessment centre, it'd just be online instead, so through Zoom, slightly different format, but still the same tasks. So you still do a video interview, that's not too difficult to change to online. You'd still do a presentation, you'd still do a written exercise, but it'd be a typed exercise instead, and then you still do a group task. This would possibly be for a less big group, so say 4 people rather than 6, to give you a bit more of a chance to interact with other students.
I see. Izzy, and yourself, has it been changing for you?
Yeah, So we have an online application is the first stop. So you submit your CV and answer 2 questions. The CV is more just if you want to share something. The main thing that we look at is the answer to the 2 questions. So we look to see the passion that you have for that particular area of digital marketing, and then some of the skills that you think would make you well suited to that area. After that initial stage, you move through to a video interview. So very similar to Gabrielle, that's all online anyway, and is kind of done at your convenience. So you're sent a link and you can hit record whenever you want to record it. And then once you finish the entire video, it submits to us and we review it. After that stage, we normally had group interviews at our office. Sadly, we can't do them anymore. They weren't proper assessment days. They were more just a chance for small groups, so probably around 5 people, to come together to see the office and to really get a feel for the culture of the business. So we're quite lucky in digital marketing. There's quite a particular culture around that. If you look at the Googles of the world, kind of, yes, we have beanbags, there's kind of a cafe, and it's all very cool. There's a games room and a cinema room. And that's really quite the vibe for the business. I woke up in my nice t-shirt and a headband, and we really want people to get a flavour for that, because if what they're looking for is a much more corporate feel, they probably won't get that at our business. So the office days was always a good chance for them to get a feel for who we are, what we're like, and if that suits them. So it's a shame, really, that stage of the interview process has had to change and go online. So we now just do one-to-one interviews, very similar to a Skype call or a Zoom call, where you're just speaking to someone. And what we've asked is that candidates just spend a little bit more time asking those questions around culture and what it is that they really want to get to know about the business. For us, an interview process was always a 2-way thing. So it's not just important for us to interview the candidate, but for them to interview us. Again, we can do that online fairly easily. So it wasn't too much of a trouble moving to online interviews. And then the final interview is still online. Again, it used to be in person, but we've just put it online, and they're asked to put together a presentation based on a client brief. So it might be, how would you go about doing a digital marketing campaign for Toys R Us? Talk us through it with a presentation. So they create a presentation and then talk us through it on the screen. So yeah, that's basically our process. So other than the office days not being in the office, which is kind of gutting, it's fun that we can change the other things online. And I guess it gives people more of a chance to ask those really kind of in-depth, deep digging questions to make sure that they really get a flavour of where they're going to be working if they're not going to get a chance to see it.
And Catherine, from an FDM perspective, have you found that that's really changed and made it more challenging for you, or has it been a case of business as usual with a few tweaks?
Yeah, I mean, we are quite different to, I guess, a lot of other graduate employers, is we recruit all throughout the year. So we have had to manage lots of different factors in terms of onboarding, as well as obviously the training piece and the assessing piece as well. So for us, our process traditionally was online application, a video interview, and then people would come into one of our academies or one of our centres for an assessment centre day. And that would involve a welcome talk, some interviews, and then a number of different online tests that they would complete within our offices within that day. And then if successful, they'd be offered a position to join within our academies and be coming in kind of physically to our academies to do their training before then going out on site with our clients. So we have had to make a few changes. We had to make them quite quickly, because I think we had assessment centres running 2 days after we went into lockdown, so we had to adapt quickly. And so what the early stages of the process have remained the same. We initially transitioned all of our assessment centres to just be taking place online, so through Zoom, and people were sent the tests. And then within the past couple of weeks, we've changed it again slightly, because we found that doing an online kind of welcome talk, then doing an online interview, then doing online tests all within one day was a lot of time at your screen. So we've broken it up slightly. So people complete an online test once they have completed their video interviews, still the same ones they did at the assessment centre. Then they come to a virtual kind of welcome talk, business introduction, and then the interviews, and then are given offers to join the business from there. And all of our academy training is now running virtually, and all of the onboarding with clients is virtual as well.
I see. Siobhan, from an Irish perspective, have you found these sort of changes echoed, or have you any particular changes for your own sector?
Yeah, from our side of it, I suppose similar to Gabrielle, we have our recruitment for our 2020 program completed already. So we're now looking in terms of our planning for the 2021 program. So we'd be recruiting typically we'd open for applications in September with the assessments, online assessments ongoing once you apply, with assessment centres taking place at the end of November. So for us, it's that planning piece at the moment as to what will look different. And to be honest, a lot of what we have in place already is online, and it's not going to be very different from that perspective. So similar to what others have said here, it's an online application form. We do online assessments at the very first point. So once people apply, they'll get an invitation to complete the online assessments, which will include a verbal and numerical assessment, and also a situational judgment questionnaire, which is basically gives you a sense of typical situations which would arise within our business, and you then select the answer that you feel how you would respond in that. So once people complete those assessments, if you reach a certain cutoff point, benchmark for that, then you'd be invited to complete a video interview, similar format to the others in that it's pre-recorded. You go on, you can complete it within your own time, and we would then review it afterwards. So for us, the next step, which we're reviewing at the moment, is what will our assessment centres look like. So our assessment centres will typically take place at the end of November. So obviously we're waiting at the moment as to what's going to happen from a COVID perspective. Will we be allowed to meet people again? Our assessment centre is actually quite small, so we would have a maximum of 12 graduates attending, and we'd also then have 12 assessors as well. So we may be able to go ahead, maybe in a slightly different format, but we're also looking into the opportunity of potentially doing virtual assessments. So to be honest, it's a bit up in the air at the moment as to what that's going to look like. And I suppose we're still finalising in terms of what is our business requirements going to look like as well in terms of the numbers of graduates. So all of that will determine it. But I would expect, if it is going to be a case of the virtual assessment centre, similar to what Izzy said, there's that whole piece in terms of how do you bring that culture to life as well as part of the assessment centre process, because a big bonus for graduates who come to those assessment centres is the opportunity to talk to us, to find out more about our business, and also more about the culture in terms of how we operate as part of that. So whatever we do from that perspective, be it retaining the physical assessment centres, but maybe in a different format, or in a virtual way, for it's going to be critical to be able to ensure that candidates have that opportunity to be able to engage with us and to get a sense in terms of, are we the right business for them in as much as they're the right for our business.
And Siobhan, what you've just said there, I suppose, kind of leads on to my next question. The whole issue of there's also obviously a certain degree of uncertainty about what shape, for example, your assessment centres will take this November. And I suppose for anyone in this webinar here with us, they may have questions about their own career plans, their own career prospects. Maybe their internship is being cancelled, or maybe their graduate program is being deferred. But what strikes me is that from your own overviews there is that none of you have said, well, we're significantly cutting back on our plans for recruitment. So, and I suppose I'll just throw it out to the floor, really. Maybe someone like to pick up on it, maybe the first two. What assurance would you have for people who have got their degree, who are looking to get started in the workforce, who have made their plans, have now been obviously maybe set back a little bit? What assurance would you have for their career prospects despite the current situation that we're in? Someone would like to pick up on that, maybe?
I can. Yeah.
Catherine, great, thank you very much.
I would say, particularly working within the technology industry as well, there's a few things to consider. I think technology has been highlighted as even more important than ever to actually a business being able to continue to operate successfully despite everyone working remotely. So for us, particularly within the technical space, we've seen lots of opportunities within that space. And I think the key thing is that now I was involved in a podcast with a university a few days ago, and we were saying the same thing. Employers are actually just engaging in a slightly different way now. So, normally they might be on campus running lots of events, and those events are still running, they're just running virtually, and actually are allowing for those upskill kind of opportunities that actually might not have been there beforehand. So I think it's just adapting in a slightly different way. And actually, there's lots of opportunities still out there. I think there's lots of messages being put out there that there aren't, but there are employers still hiring. And actually, hopefully we're continuing to get back to some level of kind of normality over the next few months as well. But lots of opportunities, I would still say.
Hopefully so. Okay, Gabrielle, would you echo that in your own sector?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I wouldn't panic too much. I know a lot of businesses like ours and other businesses put a lot of emphasis on early careers talent and hiring. We're not going to not need people to come into the business, so we are looking to hopefully start hiring again as normal when it comes to September, October time. Obviously, it might be reduced numbers. We don't know for certain yet, and it's going to take a while until we are 100% sure how many we can hire. But there are still going to be opportunities out there, and I think businesses want to continue to grow their business by getting young talent in and pushing for the future to grow through the company.
Very good.
I would completely echo that. We've kind of invested in early careers talent, and I think the only difference you're going to see is, and it's purely in the short term, there might be an impact on the amount of people we can hire. So, for example, kind of in previous years, maybe we've hired 200, 150 early careers people, and this year we might have to cut that down a little bit, but that might just be a short-term impact, and we'll get back to those hiring numbers again. It is so important to get people in at that start of their career and train them up, especially if you are companies like we're able to offer a full training program. So we don't need people to have previous experience. So it's really good when people come in at that entry level. So we are going to continue hiring. It just might not be at the same volume in the short run. And I think that's what I would reassure candidates and graduates with, is that there is going to be a short-term impact, obviously, but there are going to be companies that are winners in this as well. That, if retail suffers, that might mean that technology gets even bigger because everyone moves their stores online. So just kind of for now allowing not to stress yourself out too much. It's not going to be your fault if recruiters take a little bit longer to get back to you, or there's a bit more competition at this time. It will settle back out in the future. It's just kind of a short-term reaction to what businesses are going to have to deal with. And also we're dealing with it at the exact same time that it's announced by Boris. So, or whoever it is who's managing that kind of country's lockdown regulations. So we're kind of reacting as quickly as we can, but there is going to be an impact on us maybe being slightly slower or fewer numbers just for now.
And Siobhan, from your own perspective, like Musgrave are one of the companies that there's been no, in terms of what people know that Musgrave do, there's been no change because you've been obviously delivering, keeping the shelves stocked, thankfully, and graduates looking for opportunities in areas like retail and logistics. This could be in a time where you might see opportunities quite, good in those areas, and they might find it quite attractive.
Yeah, and it's you're reading my mind, obviously, Rory, because there's a piece here, I think, in terms of the different opportunities that are there. So I think over the last number of years, I know as a graduate employer, there's a piece where we've seen the graduate market get really, really competitive in terms of the number of programs that are out there and the number of graduates who are looking for those programs as well. And you just to consider, I'm doing myself out of a job here, but there are other ways to get into business. Yeah. So there are other opportunities where if you're not successful in getting into a program, it's not going to be the end of the world. There will be other opportunities out there, and how you use that, the experience that you're getting elsewhere. We have quite a number of people within our business who would have started as a part-time job working within one of our stores or working in our supply chain. And then through opportunities that have come up within the business and through promoting internally, have progressed to quite very senior positions within our organization. And you see those people as well who come through our graduate applications who have had the part-time job while going through college. And what I urge people on the webinar to consider is what are the transferable skills that you're going to get from that, and the knowledge. So it's not just a part-time job to make some money. There are skills that you're learning about, and how are you then going to bring that through to stand out as a candidate when you go for another opportunity that you feel may suit your career that bit better. So no opportunity is wasted. It's the perspective and the attitude that you bring to that when you are working.
Okay, thanks, Siobhan. And sorry, just to address some of the questions coming through. We will get to the questions at the end. There's quite a lot coming through. And also people are asking about how they can get in touch with the companies that we have here with us today. We will do a roundup at the end in which our panel will tell you what the next steps are to get in touch with their respective companies. So don't worry about that. We will get that information out to you. So for someone who is now going into a process which is virtual, obviously, they may have the academic qualifications, they may have the work experience, they may have the people skills, they may be very confident about going into, for example, an assessment centre that's now been migrated online, which they may feel nullify a lot of their interpersonal skills. A lot of the skills would make them stand out from the crowd in those kind of more traditional assessment centre settings. So maybe Gabrielle, could I ask you, how can someone, kind of make themselves excel in those settings, especially within team exercises where you want to collaborate, but you also want to make your own skills stand out? What are some of the advice, what are some of the tips you might have?
Yeah, of course. So it can be quite new for students coming into a virtual sort of experience. Obviously, when you're in a business, we use Zoom quite a lot. Even before COVID, you're always on like online meetings, especially in a global company. So it is an important skill to have, to be able to show in the group exercise on the assessment day, for example, that you can interact with other people in an online setting. So what I would say is just make sure that you prepare for, so you know what to expect, just make sure you prepare. And if you are in your group setting, you're having a discussion and you speak at the same time as somebody else, maybe just say like, oh, sorry, you go first, and then wait until they finish their point and then try and follow up with yours afterwards. And make sure you're engaged with other people. Don't look bored when you're on the video. Start like make eye contact with the camera, so nod along, and then follow up on people's questions afterwards. You'll all get a chance to speak. If somebody's like speaking over everybody all the time, obviously that doesn't look good, but you will have a chance to get your point across when you do need to. So just make sure that you just treat it as you would an in-person exercise. So try and imagine that you are in the room with these people and you don't want to be talking over each other. And also try and make sure you've got like no distractions in the background as well, and you are fully focused on the assessment.
Okay, and maybe Catherine, if people are doing the dreaded video interview in terms of the automated video interview,
Yeah.
Is that a process that you use yourselves in FDM?
Yeah, so we've got the automated one and now the
Yeah, and I know the automated one, people find it, because it is, it can negate, a lot of your kind of what you feel you can put across personally. How do you overcome that, and how do you prepare in a very practical way for for doing an automated video interview in the best possible fashion?
Yeah, so I think, and I've talked to students quite a lot about this over the past few months, is that I would say treat a virtual interview like a live interview and a video interview still very differently. I think treat the virtual one as you would a normal face-to-face interview. And with the video interviews, I think it's about, for us anyway, we assess and focus very much on potential. So, we want those answers and responses for all. Our questions are automated. We want your responses to be natural as well. So we don't expect you to have a full script that you're almost reciting to the camera. It's okay for it to be kind of a natural response to the question. And also, I think as a recruiter, you kind of get used to seeing that people will generally improve as the video interview goes on. So they might start off quite nervous, a little bit awkward, on the first one, but actually by the time they're up to question 4, for example, they're much more comfortable with that environment, with that style of the questions as well. And we have I think a lot of other companies have a practice question as the starting point of the video interview. As a recruiter, you never see the answers, what people are recording there. And I would say really utilize that, have lots of practices so that by the time you're answering the questions, you're not worrying about the camera and where I'm looking and the technology behind it. You're just worrying about the question that you're answering within that video interview as well. But I do think treat a pre-recorded video interview and a virtual interview, which is more a live conversation, still has different stages in the process as well. And
when you were, when people walk into an interview and they've coached themselves for it, they may have bought a new suit for it, they've done their prep, they've scoured the route out, they've done all the things that we're told to do for an interview. They're now told it's online next week, they get a link. How can you kind of in some ways break the ice, I suppose, when when the screen just lights up and you're there face to face with 2 or 3 people? And you want to put yourself across in the best possible way. What are some of the things that you like to see when you meet someone online for an interview?
I'd say someone who's just a personable, nice person. So someone who can greet you with a smile, say hello, thank you for taking the time to interview me. All those very basic, just polite things to say. Obviously, company's going to be very different. So also, knowledge is power. Know the company that you're applying to, know their culture. If they are a very professional banking, law, very professional company with a corporate background, then you might need to be wearing a suit. Make sure that you address them professionally. Whereas if you know that it's a bit more of a casual company where you get to know the people on a more personal level and maybe be a bit more personable, then do that. I would say as well, it's hard, but maybe don't crack too many jokes. We've had a few candidates that have almost tried to be like really humorous on video interviews, and kind of like Gabrielle was saying, we do a lot of Skype and online calls anyway in our business, even before COVID. And if someone was cracking jokes 24/7, you would start to question their professionalism. Do they know how to be in front of a client? Like, it's fine to be personable and warm, but there's a difference between that and actually just chatting to your friends. So definitely kind of knowing that balance, but there's nothing wrong with just being polite, open. It helps if you're in a bright environment, that kind of makes you feel naturally a little bit more warm. It's just things like that, thinking about the psychology behind it, and trying to be as clear and kind of clearly spoken so that they can understand as well. Obviously online, it's never easy. The camera might freeze. Don't be afraid to pause and just say, hey, I'm really sorry, the camera froze, I didn't hear that question. Would you mind repeating it? We're all aware that technology doesn't always work well. So there's no hardship. You're still a human being, and as are the interviewers. So just being kind of honest about missing a question or something freezing is absolutely fine as well.
And Siobhan, as Izzy just said there, I mean, employers are, I suppose, particularly understanding at this time of the pressure that the candidate is under doing the interview in this format. Though I suppose, you know, when you think of today's students and graduates, they are digital natives in the truest possible sense. Yet they're never totally prepared for such a, you know, 100% virtual process. So when things go wrong, for example, you know, if you're in the middle of the interview and the connection just drops, you know, maybe the fuse, you know, flicks or something like that, or horror show. What should someone do when the interview screen just goes dead, their laptop, the batteries died, they plug it in? What is the first thing they should do to kind of mitigate against circumstances?
There's something that I say to all our candidates for all the assessment centres anyway, which is at the very beginning, I say, breathe. Yeah. So
Always a good place to start.
It's the best thing to do, because people just get so hyped up and panicked about these things. So again, from our side of it, we're not digital natives, so we have our own technology glitches and hiccups to get through as well. So look, things happen, and we understand that things happen. So I know from our perspective, if there was a case where you're on a video interview, you are going to have alternative contact details beside you. So you're going to have a mobile number. So if it goes dead and you can't contact the person via online, then we'll drop you a text or WhatsApp or give you a call. Say, okay, what's after happening? If it's after happening on our side, we're so sorry. This is what the situation is. If it's on your side, similar, you'll have contact details for us. Or we will contact you to say, look, it appears I've gone. Can you let us know what's happening? So there's always going to be a workaround in terms of being able to contact us. And again, if there's an issue there from a technology perspective, we understand these things can happen, and you can look to reschedule. Now, it could be a bit more challenging when you have an assessment centre piece, but from an assessment centre, you will be using technology from our side that will be tested, and we would strongly be encouraging you as well ahead of time to ensure that you are in a place where you are going to be uninterrupted, where you know that there aren't any scheduled power cuts, ideally, that you have a strong Wi-Fi connection. So all of these things, that you are prepared to put yourself in the best possible situation. And if worst case scenario happens and something crashes, then we'll talk. We'll see what
Make
the
contact,
options are in relation to
relax,
that.
breathe, as you say. Yeah.
Exactly. So these things happen. This is life. This is reality. So look, just make sure that we have all the contact details, and yeah, we'll just pick it up and take it from there. And
I think Izzy made another good point there in relation to dress code. That is something that people, you know, do find very kind of hard to pin down in the video interview world, I suppose. And you know, Gabrielle would be, you know, I know there's different aspects of your own business, but some of them, people may think that, oh, I need to be wearing my shirt and tie for this interview. Is there a particular dress code expected for aspects of professional services interviews, things like that?
Yeah, so I would advise all candidates to dress smart. It doesn't have to be like proper tie and suit jacket, but maybe just a shirt or a blouse on, or just like smart casual. And then obviously like try and have, like, if you can, have a blank background behind you, or like not a messy bed behind you, you know what I mean? Like if you can just have like a neat background, and make sure you're just somewhere that won't be disturbed. But obviously it's different for like marketing companies, like Isabel said. But for us, we sort of look for just putting a little bit of effort in, so as if you were going to a face-to-face interview.
And Catherine, what sort of other pitfalls have you observed maybe candidates fall into? You kind of go, ooh, they may be very good, they may be standing out, and then they're just, you said something. I'm not talking about technological issues. I'm talking about maybe something they may say, or how they may put themselves across in something they've been asked to submit. What are some of the pitfalls you've maybe observed?
Yeah, I think it's great to put your camera on and get involved as well. I think that's a good place to start. So when we do like our business introduction, welcome talk at the start of kind of the final stage, we're looking for people to ask questions, to engage, to be involved in the discussion. I think another common pitfall, which has come about when we think about virtual assessment centres, is that if you're doing a virtual face-to-face interview, treat it as you would a normal face-to-face interview, and you wouldn't bring in, your notepad, you wouldn't have all the notes written down beside you. You would go in there fully prepared to answer that question and prepared for that interview. And I think that's quite a common thing we've seen of a pitfall candidates to kind of fall at, is because if you've done a video interview, often you might have a few notes behind your screen, to prompt you with certain things. But actually, when you're doing a face-to-face interview, you wouldn't normally have that. So as an interviewer, it can be quite distracting. And I've seen people quite obviously kind of flick through a notepad when I ask them a question. And I think is just view them as separate stages. And also, if they do have technical, difficulties, they happen, that's fine. But it's about letting us know, there's nothing we can do if you just disappear off the face of the earth and, we never hear anything from you. And then a few weeks later, you get in touch. It's about reaching out as soon as possible and just saying that this has happened. How can we move forward from that?
Yeah, and I suppose people, we have some people then who are dealing with challenges all their lives that are on a different level. Like, have you had to make allowances for those disabilities, or maybe vision, hearing loss? Are there any observations you've had to take note of and make changes for during this time to make sure you are inclusive of that demographic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as a business, it's something, we take very seriously. We ask throughout all stages in the process and make sure people feel kind of confident and comfortable enough to, disclose if they need any adjustments throughout the process. And actually, technology hasn't limited that at all. Most graduate employers work with, big providers to support them in technology, and those providers have to have kind of provisions to be able to make adjustments throughout the process. And I really would just urge people that if you do need any adjustments in the process, let the recruiters know, because they want to be there and want to support and make sure that the process is as inclusive as possible for everyone. And all businesses should be doing that as well.
Okay, it's good to hear. And over the last few months, obviously, students have had their courses have pretty much ceased, or they've migrated online. But what they understood would be the end of the academic year is not what they thought it would be. And for some of them, it's the end of their academic kind of life as such, and they're moving into the working world. They've had a few months now where they've been either applying for jobs, putting together applications, finding out what career paths are open for them, and overcoming obstacles in case of internships being cancelled or jobs being frozen, things like that. But a lot of them as well have been working on personal development in terms of developing hard skills, developing soft skills. From your own point of view as recruiters, how important is it that you see that students have taken this time to either maybe do an online course, earn a certification from tech, or in an element of financial services, or digital marketing certification? What do you like to see from someone over the last few months in terms of, or even any time over the last few years when they weren't studying, in terms of how they've added to their hard and soft skills? Siobhan, could I ask you?
So myself and Izzy actually ran a webinar 2 weeks ago just in relation to this, so feel free to look up at that in the previous recordings. What I would say, there's a couple of things to this. So firstly, what I would say to you is congratulations on finishing your academic year. You would have had plans maybe to go traveling or to enjoy your last summer, things like that. Do it. I know traveling may be limited, but look, take some time to yourself as well to recognize the achievement that you've had. Your whole life is going to be spent working in some shape or form. So if you can take some time now to get a breather, then look, yes, it can be challenging to find work. We've all been there. We've all gone through times where we've finished college, and I ran away to Spain for a couple of years before figuring out what to do with my life. So these things will tough times will pass. So firstly, just take that break is what I would say, because that will help you to reset. In terms of skills, really what we'd like to see from a candidate coming forward is that whatever experience they have, be it from college, from their academic side, from involved in sports, charity organizations, volunteering, part-time work, whatever that may be, all of that will have a bearing in terms of how you come across as a person and the mindset that you have. So we're looking for a person who has that mindset of, I understand what your industry is about. I'm really interested in working in that industry. I want to know more. I want to add value to that. I know that I will make mistakes, but that's okay. I'm ready to learn. I want to really go at it because I'm passionate about this side of the business. So it's that attitude and that resilience to be able to say, okay, look, there are things are challenging, but I really want to give it a good go. And to be able to demonstrate that curiosity, that passion, that can-do piece, that's really what we would look for in a candidate. I think, I'm not sure who said it earlier, but somebody mentioned, look, we are looking for potential. So yes, you may have some work experience, you may not, you may have done an internship, you may have volunteered, you may have been a carer at home, you may have run your own business cutting lawns, whatever it may be, it's all experience that you can bring in, and to be able to demonstrate that you wanted to participate in the workforce and you want to add value to our organization and you understand what our industry is about. And that's a really important thing I would say for anybody. If you understand the industry and the business that you want to work in, because you can spend a load of time doing loads of different courses, but if you're not sure about a company or an organization where you want to work, then it's going to be, you can spend all this time doing something that's not going to be fit for where you want to end up in your life. So do some time to research companies. There's loads of opportunities on LinkedIn to follow industries, follow companies. It'll give you insights and trends, what's happening, and whatever you find yourself reading the most about, then investigate that more. Be curious about that. Go off and find more information. Follow those people on LinkedIn, connect with them. And that's how you learn. That's how you be able to bring through your experience when it comes to the interview process.
And Izzy, I mean, and Siobhan just said something there, be curious. And, you know, how important is that you come to an interview or a career path, you know, with a real passion and curiosity for it, and maybe you've taken some time to build up some soft skills even that may add to that.
Yeah, definitely. We always find that people come to us and are like, I hadn't even heard of PPC marketing or programmatic or whichever specific job it is they're applying to before they found us. And that is absolutely fine. We don't require any previous experience. We don't have a specific degree background. Everything we train on once you get the job. So for us, we're looking for soft skills. So someone who is trainable. But also, like you said, we're looking for people who have that curiosity to go away and say, I have no idea what I do with my life. I saw this job spec for a PPC marketing person. What even is PPC? And when you've got things like YouTube at the tip of your fingertips now, just type into YouTube like day in the life of a PPC account manager or what is PPC marketing. And there's probably someone behind a screen talking you through a PPC account or a digital marketing account. Watch that. If it piques your interest, look into it even more. See if there's an online course. If you spend 5 minutes on it and you're bored out of your brains, it's not for you. And that is absolutely fine. And I would say no experience is a wasted experience. So even at the moment, if you're sat at home and you cannot get a job, now you've graduated and someone said to you, oh, why don't you just go and get a job as a Domino's delivery driver? You're thinking, no, that doesn't further my career though. Like, I don't know if that's what I wanted to do. Don't worry. Like, if you need the money or you're just wanting to do something, go and do it. And then that will teach you something. It will teach you something about how to interact with people when something goes wrong. And that's when you learn the most, is when that pizza isn't for the right customer and they're angry at you. You have to calm them down. And that's all part of the learning experience, that then when you have an interview, you can talk about those things. And that's what we really want to know, is just that you've got some kind of experience to draw on. Because if we're not looking for a specific degree background in my case, then there's no point me asking about that. What I'm asking about is your ability to learn or calm down a situation or deal with a difficult time in your life, whatever that might be. So definitely kind of no experience is wasted. And even in this time, just anything that you can do, embrace it and what you learn from it. Same with, like Siobhan said, if you just want to go traveling, you're going to learn from that, especially if you get stranded somewhere in a second wave of COVID. So definitely, like, no experience is going to be wasted at this time. Just learn as much as you can from anything that you do.
And Gabrielle, from your own perspective as a recruiter, you know, what would stand out to you in terms of what someone has done over the last few months, or, you know, be it part-time or be it volunteering or be it, you know, doing an online course?
Yeah, so I'd echo what was already said. Basically, like now's the time for you to really, you've got the time to decide what you actually want to do and what you're really interested in. You know, a lot of times you finish university, you're hurrying to get a job, you're applying for anything. Time you can actually do a lot of in-depth research and see what kind of roles are out there, what kind of things you'd like to do, what kind of business line you'd like to follow. So we also like, if you have on your CV, you've got like develop your soft skills out, like we use Excel a lot in a lot of businesses. Having more skills on that is always going to be a good thing. And just showing your willingness to learn, improve your continuous professional development. Even when you join a company, you're encouraged to carry on learning throughout your role. So if you're taking the time to attend some webinars or follow up on LinkedIn for more information and articles, it looks good on your CV and your application, and you've also got something to talk about in your interviews as well from your experiences, even if it is, like Isabel said, working part-time somewhere if you have to.
And Catherine, I mean, we even have a specific question on it here. Like, do tech companies value certifications that you may earn online? And they may not. People are not sure of their validity, or how much traction they actually have in terms of assisting you in getting a job. But if you're looking at applications, someone's gone to the trouble of trying to learn a certain process, or begin the process of learning a certain object-oriented code language, for example. How much does that application stand out to you?
Yeah, I think just to, pick up on the points that have been mentioned already, one of the strengths we assess people on at our interviews and throughout our process is around that you're a curious learner. So that curiosity is really crucial, and I think is where this all comes into play. For us, we recruit people from lots of different degree backgrounds, and we, that's a key part of our business, and we provide the training, obviously, initially as well. But I think it is really important to be taking the opportunity to do these additional kind of courses if you can. It doesn't have to be an official kind of certified course, but there are lots of things on LinkedIn Learning. At the moment, we're running lots of kind of intro to coding sessions, which are just a couple of hours long, kind of virtual events. And it doesn't have to be that official certified,
Sure.
2-month-long program you've done. It's just all these little bits and pieces that I've picked up that show you have a real curiosity as well. I think, as Izzy mentioned, like YouTube videos, you can learn so much from that. But it's about, making sure you demonstrate that through maybe an application, but also throughout the interview as well. And, you can come from any degree background. I did philosophy, and actually you just develop an interest in a particular area in your spare time. So definitely get involved in them, but it doesn't have to be something kind of official certified qualification. Everything's interesting.
We have a lot of questions here which we're going to work through, so I'll need to ask you to roll up your sleeves and help me with these. But just before we get to those, can I just go a quick roundup for where people can go in relation to finding out more about your company and the application process? Izzy, can I start with yourself?
Yeah, sure. So all of our jobs, when we open them, go onto the Merkle UK careers page. We're a global company, so just make sure when you're on the careers page that you're on the UK one. On our job specs, we actually detail the interview process and some things that we'd like to see just to help everyone out, kind of level the playing field across the board, whether you are someone who's gone to university and has the support of a careers centre, or someone who has never gone to university, is looking for a career change, just wants to know what it's like for entry-level roles. We're open to all of those people, so we make sure that the process is detailed on our job specs. And also, we don't have one generic process for every single job. So do look specifically at that job spec and at the process that it detailed for that. For example, if it is a coding role, we will have a coding test. If it's just a marketing role, there is no coding test. So,
okay. You good, Gabrielle?
Yeah, so you can find our roles when they go live on our careers page. Just search Marshall McLennan Companies and it'll come up with our careers page. You can also navigate to the students and graduates page from there for a little bit more information about our program. We also have a talent network, so you can sign up to that through the careers page as well, and you'll get job notifications depending on the location that you put as your preference and whether you want student or graduate roles or entry-level roles.
Okay, Catherine?
Yep, so all of our roles our technical roles are all live at the moment. As I said, we recruit all year round. So you can just go to our website, so ftmgroup.com. And we are a global company as well, but I think it should automatically take you to the UK site. And all our processes and the different roles, there's more information there under the graduates part of the careers page. I'm also happy for people to either reach out to me via LinkedIn, just add me on LinkedIn, or obviously you can drop me an email as well. It's just, hopefully my name's on the screen, just catherine.brewster@ftmgroup.com, if you just want to find out more or come to some of our events as well.
Great stuff. Sean?
Yeah, so our website is musgravegraduates.com. So even if you just Google Musgrave, then you'll find us either through our main website, which is Musgrave Group, which will also advertise any other non-graduate roles as well. So there may be people on this call who may be interested in roles outside of our program. Our graduate program does application process open in September, as I mentioned, to October. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as Musgrave Graduates. The other way I would say is that we work with Grad Ireland, and we have a profile on the website there, which will also redirect us. And there's some great resources that have been developed through the career services in Ireland, the Association of Higher Education Career Services, that those resources are available through the Grad Ireland website, but also through the career services across higher educations across the island of Ireland. And there's some fantastic resources there, and I'm sure in the UK as well, all the career services, they give a lot of opportunities, and employers will also advertise through the through the university career portals. So once we're advertising, we'll make sure that people know about it. But certainly what I would recommend is that if there are companies you're interested in, follow them on LinkedIn. And by following them on LinkedIn, at least then you're going to get the notification in terms of alerts and things like that as opportunities come up.
Okay, we're going to move to some questions now, and Jack has curated some of the questions for me, and we will be going through more than these. I'm just going to, I mean, if one of you can contribute, I will select someone. But if you don't want to talk on it, maybe someone else can jump in on it. There's a very interesting one that Jack just put at the top of the list there, and it's in relation to something that we may not have heard a whole lot of before this: digital poverty. People who when they're in university, when they're in college, they have access to devices that they just don't have access to in whatever their domestic situation is. How understanding can you be for people in that situation in terms of when you want to schedule interviews or what methods you can conduct the interviews in? Is there anyone who'd like to jump in on that? Perhaps
I'm
Catherine
happy to jump in.
Sorry, is it?
Yeah, happy to jump in. I would say similar to, I think it was Catherine who said earlier, because there was another question on if you had a disability or you needed an adaptation. I think every company now, it is their duty to make sure that they can run an interview process with you, no matter whether you do have technical access or not, whether you have a disability or not. So I would just say be completely honest. If you're applying to a job and you aren't able to do something online, just make a note of that in your application, or try and email someone directly if you can find them on LinkedIn. Or even if you can't find them anywhere on LinkedIn or anything, Instagram normally has a direct message for the company. If you just say I'm applying to a job and I don't know how to contact someone about adaptation that I need, just let them know. Companies need to make sure that they are adjusting. And I would say judge that company really fiercely if they're not willing to adapt because you don't have access to those technologies, or that they're not willing to adapt to your disability. So just ask, and they should be able to accommodate or give you a good reason as to why they can't.
And Catherine, I'll ask you the next question I have here, which is, it's one that I suppose a lot of people you're bombarded, maybe you may see the same job in so many different places. You may see it obviously on the company's career site, but you may see it, on Indeed or on LinkedIn or on different job sites. And some students are wondering, does it matter which of these platforms you actually apply through? I presume every application is treated the same, and students just want to be, I suppose, reassured in that manner that that the application is treated the same no matter which platform you apply through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Companies will advertise on lots of different platforms, and generally they'll all pull through into the same place anyway, when they're then processed and kind of looked at by recruiters. So no, it doesn't matter which platform you go through. I guess there is some benefits to, obviously, if you have met a company on campus, or if you have attended some of their kind of own specific events, just because you can often reference that, or maybe you've met the particular person you're going to be talking to. But I wouldn't say the application is treated any differently. It just helps because you might already have a rapport with that person you're going to be working with throughout the process. But yeah, apply through whichever platform works best for you.
Okay, and I suppose on that as well, the whole issue of if you see a job expires tomorrow and you've missed it for the last few weeks, it's been up. You know, some people will think, oh well, you know, maybe it's not worth my while going for now. They've got 498, you know, applications. Gabrielle, is there any weighting attached to how early someone has applied in the process? Some students are asking, like, is there a weighting placed on that by the recruiter, or it's obviously purely based on the merits of that application, which I would obviously assume it is, but if you could just reassure students.
Yeah, of course. It doesn't matter whether you're the first person to apply or the last person to apply. We just look at everyone's CV who's applied. They'll go through a screening process. So if you meet the requirements, then you'll get moved to the video interview. So we assess every application based on its own application. Like, it doesn't matter when you've applied.
Okay, and we have a number of questions here in relation to Zoom interviews and automated video interviews. We've talked about this during the session, and the session will be live on the website after. So I advise you go back, I think it's about 20 minutes in, where we cover those in detail. And Siobhan, numerical reasoning terrifies me in the thoughts of it, but in online application centres, thinking numerically mustn't be easy. How would you advise students to prepare for things like numerical reasoning tests, which form part and parcel of online assessment centres?
And that's fair. And I mean, the numerical reasoning, it's not a maths test. It's the way the information is presented and how you can interpret the numbers and to be able to draw conclusions from that. But what I would say, again, either through your career services, or there are a number of different websites. So for companies, so for example, we work with a company called Qt. It's owned by Aon, and they specialize in psychometric assessments. And they offer online resources which are free to students, where they can do practice tests. So they can go online and they can do practice verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning. They have a selection of ones that students can go on and try just to get accustomed to it. And it's really useful because it gives you a sense of what to expect when you go on to those kind of assessments. They're not necessarily going to be the exact same as the ones that you will have when you apply for the employer, but certainly it's a great opportunity to be able to go in and have an understanding of the expectations around that. What I would again say to anybody, I think I've said it earlier as well, is just when you are starting those when it comes to doing those kind of assessments, in our process, for example, once you apply, you're automatically going to get an email within 24 hours to complete those, to invite you to complete those assessments, and you have a certain time frame in which to complete them. And we will give you reminders if you haven't completed them, but do complete them. Yeah, so don't apply in September. Our application window closes on the 20th of October, and then you come back to us on the 22nd of October to say, oh, I didn't do my online assessments. Because we go back saying, well, we did send you reminders in relation to that. So if you're given a task to do as part of the assessment, do complete it within a time frame that's allocated as part of that. Make sure that when you are going ahead to do them, just give yourself the time and space, check your internet, your Wi-Fi connection, all of those. But look, there are a lot of resources available online to be able to practice those things. So certainly I'd recommend finding out about the process of that you're going for, and jump in and get the practice.
And Catherine, one of the questions which I remember used to dread them, if you're sitting in front of an interview panel and they say, and do you have any questions for us? And people go, ugh. So it's still, you know, something that can bring dread. And there's many ways you can kind of coach, and people I know it's one of the top Google searches, you know, which is not the way to do it. But what advice would you have for someone who's doing a good interview and they're just nearly approaching to hit the escape button to get out of it, and then next thing they get asked this and they haven't really thought about it? What's a good fallback position from your own point of view?
I think there's a few things to think about. One is to view a process, an assessment centre or an interview also as an opportunity for you to assess the company as well. So, you know, there will be things that you're thinking about and wondering about that company. You know, for us, we do a business introduction at the start of the day. There'll be lots of questions that come up as a result of things that we talk about, because you'll just be finding out more information. And I think if you are really struggling, just ask questions and show an interest in the business. You know, where is this business kind of going in the future? You might have questions at the moment where you can ask questions about how they've managed to adapt in the current situation and kind of changes that have been made. So I think just use the other opportunities you've had to like hear about the business and the role to help you formulate some questions, and think of it as a two-way process. You know, it's our opportunity to assess you, but it's also, you know, your opportunity to assess the business. So there will be things that you just want to know more about around career progression maybe, or around, you know, changes within the business, where do they see it going in the future, and the opportunities that you're going forward for as well.
Okay, sorry, Siobhan, just while I pick up one quick, someone else asked there what the website was for the numerical reasoning or the verbal reasoning as well.
Yeah,
what was the
so
website?
the company is called CUTE, CUT-E. If you look for them under CUTE or Aon,
Great.
and just Google for a practice test and you'll find it there on the website.
Wonderful. Izzy, just want to cover as many of these as I can. And I know people may think that the cover letter has had its day, but let's face it, most of the jobs that you're applying for will give you an option to put in a cover letter or a note. How important are they in terms of giving, I suppose there is a politeness aspect, but there's also another chance, and you shouldn't turn it down, to project a bit more of your personality and your enthusiasm for the job. What's your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I think definitely. Some companies are going to put different weighting on it than others. If you do have the opportunity to add in a cover letter, it doesn't hurt to talk a little bit more about why you're so passionate about that job. I would just say that personally, for me as a recruiter, and I can't talk for every recruiter, but I don't need a page-long cover letter on who you are as a person and you went to university and you did this degree. I just want to know why now at this moment in your life you're applying for this job. And it doesn't matter if you had a 5-year career break, if you never went to uni. I just want to know, like, here and now in this moment, why you have chosen this role and why you feel like you're suitable for it. So I'd say don't worry about pages and pages and articulate language. Obviously spell check it and grammar, but just get to the key points. Why this job? Why this company? Why do you
Short and sweet, yeah. And Gabrielle, I can ask you about we've a few questions about it here, and it's a very thorny one, is ageism. People feeling that maybe, you know, they're not going to look at me because I'm above a certain age threshold. What sort of reassurance can you provide to people in that, and, you know, maybe evidence-based reassurance that, you know, that there are people joining your organization of a certain age bracket where people may feel that they're not attracted to recruiters?
Yeah, so for our graduate roles, there is no age limit to apply. I usually say young talent because they tend to be young people applying. We don't have an age limit, or we don't look at your age when you're applying to this. You do have to have been in education and been at university in the last 3 years. So that's why it tends to be younger people. But if you are a mature student and you've been to university and got your degree, we'll still weight you the same as every other person who's applied. So we have had mature students join onto our graduate programs in the past.
Okay, that's great. And listen, I've maybe time for one more quick question. Is there any, I suppose this is for international students, so it's a technical one, so if someone could just answer it, even just to give some sort of perspective. Can international students apply for example, Gabrielle, since I was chatting to you there, for your jobs and graduate schemes, as most of them who graduate this year will have their visas will expire by early next March. Is there a visa sponsorship provided by yourself or by anyone else here in the panel?
At the moment, we can't sponsor visa ships, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Listen, thanks very much for taking the time to get through as many of those questions. Apologies to anyone whose question we didn't get to. We will go through them afterwards and we'll try and get back to you with some insights on those. I really want to thank my panel here, which has been fantastic, I think. So I'd like to thank Isabella Luba from Merkle, Gabrielle Sewell from Marsh McLennan, Siobhan Scanlon from Musgrave, and Catherine Brewster from FDM Group. I really enjoyed having you on here today. Thanks so much for your time and your insights. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.